My name is Alex, and saying my family situation is complex would be putting it mildly. We've always had this silent tension, something nobody discusses openly, but it's there, hanging in the air. If you've experienced a family dynamic where everything appears fine outwardly, yet you sense something's not quite right, you'll get it. We aren't struggling financially, but we're not wealthy, either. My folks managed to build a decent life, and I guess I've taken a similar path. I have a stable job, living somewhat paycheck to paycheck, yet I've managed to put some savings aside. But my cousin, Danny, he's on a whole different level. We spent our childhood together, though we've never truly connected. He's always carried this air of privilege, as if he's inherently deserving of more. When we were younger, it wasn't as noticeable. But as time went on, it became increasingly apparent. His attitude, particularly towards me, has always been, well, let's just say it's been far from pleasant. Sometimes, the way he glances at me, it's as if my mere existence, my moderate success, irritates him. I recall a few years back, he was complaining to me about his financial struggles, all while cruising around in a brand new vehicle his parents had gifted him. When I pointed out that I was doing reasonably well without any handouts, he immediately became defensive. Fast forward to the present, and I'm at a family gathering, trying to maintain my composure. This get-together, similar to most others, is a charade for my relatives to act as if everything is harmonious. We're at my aunt's place, a modest suburban residence with a charming white picket fence, but the atmosphere inside is anything but charming. My aunt, uncle, and cousins are present, as they always are. The room is filled with strained conversations and forced pleasantries. My cousin Danny, naturally, is at the center of attention, speaking loudly enough for everyone to overhear, yet never really conveying anything of substance. He invariably dominates the room with his voice, whether he's boasting about some new tech toy he's acquired or repeating the same tired anecdote for the 100th time. I simply sit there, offering occasional nods, just trying to make it through the evening. As is customary, no one addresses the underlying issues. No one mentions the fact that Danny feels entitled to everything, simply by virtue of being family. And yet, here I am, the supposed outcast, attempting to avoid any conflict while everyone else maintains the facade of normalcy. Then, the topic of conversation changes. Maya inquires about my work. I don't mind the question. Work's going okay. I tell her it's consistent, and she nods as though it's the most captivating thing anyone could have mentioned. I know she's attempting to engage in polite conversation, but it's evident that no one is genuinely interested in the specifics. That's when Danny interjects. He glances my way with that characteristic self-satisfied smirk, and I instantly know something's brewing. So, Alex, he begins, tapping his silverware against his dinnerware, how's the career going? Earning a substantial income now? You always struck me as the type who'd achieve considerable success. He phrases it as though he's sincerely inquisitive, but I'm not fooled. He's evaluating me, attempting to gauge my financial standing. I hesitate before responding. I know he's probing for information. Oh, I respond nonchalantly. The same old routine. Working, setting aside a bit of money when I can. Nothing extraordinary. I keep my response deliberately ambiguous, observing him intently. I can sense he's not pleased with my answer. He leans closer, his voice lowered just enough for those in our immediate vicinity to overhear. Right, well, you've accumulated a tidy sum of money now, haven't you? Must be pleasant, he remarks, a smirk playing on his lips. I'm not sure if he believes I won't detect it, but I perceive the subtle challenge in his tone. I've been contemplating purchasing a new vehicle, he continues, his eyes gleaming. But, given the current circumstances, I'm a little strapped for cash. You understand, don't you? He allows his statement to linger, anticipating my reaction. I don't rise to the occasion. Instead, I take a leisurely sip of my beverage, feigning ignorance of his not-so-subtle hints. It's as though he underestimates my intelligence, believing I won't discern his true intentions. He's angling for a handout, attempting to make me feel culpable for his perceived lack of success. Oh, really? I inquire, maintaining a casual tone. Well, I'm confident you'll resolve it. That's when he intensifies his efforts. I mean, come on, we're related, aren't we? Danny leans in even further, his voice dropping to a near whisper, although it's still audible to everyone at the table. Relatives support one another. I was wondering, perhaps you could lend me some funds. Just sufficient to acquire that automobile. I realize it's not an insignificant request. After all, you're doing quite well for yourself now. He pauses, observing me as though I should be appreciative of his proposition. My thoughts begin to race. This isn't the first instance he solicited money, and it likely won't be the last. However, this time, it feels distinct. He's not merely requesting assistance. He's attempting to coerce me into feeling obligated. I sense my heart rate increasing slightly, but I remain composed. I'm not sure, man, I reply, my voice unwavering. I'm not really in a financial position to be distributing money at the moment. I detect a flicker of irritation in his eyes, but he swiftly conceals it, flashing a strained smile. Come on, Alex. It's just family supporting family, correct? His voice is now smooth, attempting to sound relaxed, but I see through his facade. Everyone at the table is observing, yet no one intervenes. I can sense the mounting pressure. I'm on the verge of losing my temper, but then I recall something. Something that's been gnawing at me for an extended period. Something that will completely dismantle his charade. Slowly, I reach into my pocket and retrieve my phone. I tap a few times, navigating through a prior conversation. The tension at the table is almost tangible as Danny observes me, uncertain of my actions. I glance up at him, a faint smile appearing on my face. You wish to discuss family supporting one another, do you? I inquire, my voice now sharp and confrontational. I swipe the screen and display the message to him. Then clarify this. The room falls completely silent. I can sense the gazes of everyone at the table fixed upon me, but I don't avert my eyes from Danny's face. I maintain my finger on the phone screen, holding it just high enough for him to view. His smirk diminishes, and I observe his eyes shift from my face to the phone, his expression gradually transforming from smug assurance to astonishment. For a fleeting moment, his lips quiver, as though he's attempting to formulate a response, but the words don't materialize. And that's when I deliver the decisive blow. I retrieve the screenshot. It's a text message from several months ago, one I had nearly forgotten about until recently. A message from a mutual acquaintance, someone who was evidently exasperated with Danny's conduct. The message reads, "Danny's been disparaging you once more. Informed everyone you're merely an impoverished individual fortunate to have employment." Beneath that, there's another message, even more incisive. "He claims you're not even deserving of assistance, but hey, I suppose he'll only communicate with you when he requires something." I observe as Danny's face transitions from pale to completely devoid of color. I don't even need to utter a word. The text speaks for itself. My cousin stutters, attempting to maintain his composure, but it's evident that he's bewildered. He clears his throat, his voice trembling. "Hey Alex, that's not..." He interrupts himself when he realizes there's nothing he can say to rectify the situation. The room remains hushed, aside from the faint hum of the air conditioning and the occasional clink of cutlery against plates. Everyone is glancing between us, and I can perceive the uncertainty in their expressions. No one has yet spoken a word. My aunt, who typically assumes the role of mediator within the family, glances at Danny, then at me, her face taut with bewilderment. It's apparent she has no inkling of what's transpiring, and I can see her attempting to piece together the events in her mind. Danny, still endeavoring to salvage his reputation, forces a feeble laugh. "Look, it's not as it appears, all right? But he doesn't complete his sentence. His voice falters as he glances at the phone screen once more, as though he's finally beginning to comprehend the extent of his exposure. He shifts uneasily in his seat, his eyes flicking around the table. His expression is a blend of humiliation and annoyance, but I'm not about to let him off easily. "That's amusing," I state, not attempting to conceal the derision in my voice. I wasn't aware that family members spoke disparagingly about one another behind their backs. But perhaps I'm simply overreacting, correct? I allow the silence to persist for a few additional seconds, observing Danny squirm under the weight of his own falsehoods. I don't even need to glance at anyone else. I know they're all harboring the same thought. The most disheartening aspect is that my aunt is beginning to grasp the situation. She glances between us, and then at Danny, her expression gradually shifting from bewilderment to apprehension. "Danny, what is this?" she inquires softly. "What's transpiring?" I don't provide a response for him. I simply allow the silence to linger, permitting the truth to permeate. Danny opens his mouth once more, endeavoring to speak, but no words emerge. He's depleted his repertoire of justifications, and everyone at the table is beginning to perceive him for who he truly is. The conceited, privileged demeanor he's maintained for years is beginning to disintegrate. And for the first occasion, I'm not the one under scrutiny. However, just as I believe I've gained the advantage, my uncle interjects. All right, let's all de-escalate the situation. Everyone's a bit tense, okay?" he states, endeavoring to alleviate the tension. But I can perceive it in his eyes. He no longer truly believes Danny. There's something in the manner he glances at me now, as though he's attempting to ascertain whether this is a familial dispute or if it extends beyond that. Danny, sensing the shift in dynamics, seeks support from my uncle. "Dad, this is absurd," he mumbles. "Alex is simply endeavoring to portray me negatively in front of everyone. I was merely requesting some assistance, as any family member would. This has been excessively exaggerated." He's now scrambling, endeavoring to manipulate the circumstances, but it's futile. The fissures are beginning to manifest. I rise to my feet, placing my phone face down on the table. "I'm finished with this discussion. I'm not making you appear unfavorable, Danny," I state icily. "You're accomplishing that entirely on your own." I turn to my aunt and uncle, my voice composed. "You wish to know what constitutes a family that supports one another? A family that refrains from disparaging remarks behind each other's backs. A family that abstains from manipulating one another when they're in a vulnerable position. That's the type of family I believed we were." Danny's face is now crimson, and I'm certain he's regretting ever attempting this maneuver. I can perceive it in his eyes, that instant when he comprehended I wouldn't yield, when he realized this time he wouldn't escape accountability. He shifts restlessly in his chair, incapable of meeting anyone's gaze. And just before the tension culminates, I make my move. "You desire financial assistance so intensely," I state, my voice piercing through the silence. "Then elucidate this." I reach for my phone once more, prepared to reveal precisely what I've been withholding. But I'm not displaying merely another screenshot. This time, I'm retrieving something else, something that will serve as the ultimate condemnation. I slide my phone across the table, face up, the screen illuminated in the subdued light of the dining area. The gravity of the moment is tangible, and I can sense the tension intensifying with each passing second. Everyone is holding their breath, anticipating the subsequent action, even Danny, who appears as though he's encountered a specter. I allow the phone to rest on the table, remaining silent. The text message on the screen is unambiguous. It's a message Danny had dispatched to a friend a week prior. Can you fathom that Alex actually perceives himself as superior to me? This individual acquires a modest sum of money and behaves as though he's a prominent figure. I wouldn't entrust him with a single dollar, let alone extend any assistance. I'll simply continue to portray the victim. Family will invariably provide support when you require it. The words linger in the air like a physical blow. Everyone stares at it, the silence stifling. Even my uncle, who typically assumes the role of peacemaker, leans back in his chair, his eyes wide, uncertain how to process this revelation. My aunt's expression is a mixture of incredulity and astonishment. Her hand trembles slightly as she reaches for her wine glass. Danny's face turns ashen, his hand shaking as he reaches out to seize the phone, but I retract it just in time. You wish to persist in feigning victimhood, Danny? I inquire, my voice composed, but there's a frigidity to it now that permeates the room. You wish to persist in exploiting the familial connection? Or should we discuss how you've been disparaging me behind my back, labeling me a failure to your acquaintances while endeavoring to ingratiate yourself with everyone else when you require something? The color drains from his face. His lips part, but no words materialize. His entire posture is deflated, his customary arrogance supplanted by something I haven't witnessed in years, vulnerability. And I can discern by the manner his eyes dart around the table that he comprehends he's lost this confrontation. The room is now completely silent, save for the faint clinking of my aunt's glass as she sets it back down with a trembling hand. My uncle observes Danny, then back at me, then back at Danny. There's no indication of the customary calm authority he possesses, merely a weary expression, as though he's finally comprehended that his son has been the source of the discord all along. Danny clears his throat, endeavoring to reclaim some semblance of dignity. This is all a misinterpretation, he states, his voice more subdued than before. But even I can detect the desperation in it now, the fissures in his defense. No, Danny, I retort firmly, locking eyes with him. This isn't a misinterpretation. This is you endeavoring to manipulate everyone surrounding you. You've been enacting the woe is me routine for an extended duration, convincing everyone you've endured hardships, that you merit assistance. But you've been exploiting everyone, including myself. Danny's mouth opens and closes, but the words remain unspoken. His mind is racing, seeking some avenue of escape from this predicament, but there's nothing. His shoulders slump as the weight of his own deeds finally descends upon him. The arrogance, the manipulation, the deception, it all converges upon him in this singular moment. But I'm not yet finished. I turn to my aunt and uncle, my tone softening just sufficiently to convey that this transcends Danny's trivial actions. I didn't intend to do this in front of everyone, I state, my voice composed yet resolute, but you merit knowing what's been transpiring covertly. Danny's been endeavoring to manipulate everyone in this family for his personal benefit, and now he believes he can pressure me into providing him with financial assistance simply because he's family. Danny's eyes widen, and I can see him panic. I didn't intend it in that manner. I wasn't endeavoring to manipulate anyone, I interrupt. Stop, Danny, I interject, my voice now amplified, no longer permitting him to evade responsibility. This is precisely what you do. You gaslight everyone surrounding you into believing you're the one who's been aggrieved, and when that proves ineffective, you exploit the familial connection to induce guilt. I allow that to permeate for a moment, permitting the full gravity of my words to settle. The silence extends, dense and oppressive, until finally, my uncle speaks, his voice taut with disappointment. This isn't the initial instance you've behaved in this manner, is it? He inquires, his eyes narrowing at Danny. Danny's jaw clenches, and he opens his mouth to protest, but my uncle raises a hand, silencing him. You've been engaging in this conduct for a considerable period, haven't you? Exploiting individuals, portraying the victim, and capitalizing on their benevolence whenever it aligns with your interests. Danny remains silent. He's incapable of responding. My uncle's words linger in the air, the ultimate condemnation of Danny's meticulously fabricated facade. I stand there for a moment, permitting the gravity of the circumstances to settle. It's finally concluded. Danny is no longer the favored child who can commit no transgressions. I can perceive the fissures in his armor, and they're only expanding. But before he can formulate a response, my aunt observes me, her eyes softening. Alex, I was oblivious to all of this. I'm profoundly remorseful. We should have discerned this sooner. Her voice trembles, and it's evident she's grappling to reconcile the son she's known with the individual standing before us now. Danny directs a desperate glance at her, but she averts her gaze. She's witnessed sufficient. I can sense the gazes of everyone upon me now, and for a moment, I contemplate whether I've exceeded appropriate boundaries. But then I realize, no. This was necessary. It was long overdue. Danny won't get away with this, not anymore. And if that means making him face the consequences of his actions, in front of everyone, then so be it. The silence lingers, but now, it's not uncomfortable. It's expectant. The tension in the room is palpable, and I know this moment is one Danny will never forget. But there's one more thing I need to say, one last thing that'll make sure he understands the full weight of his actions. Just remember, Danny, I say, my voice low, family doesn't help each other by taking advantage of one another. It's about respect, honesty, and not pretending to be someone you're not when you need something. I wait for him to respond, but there's nothing left to say. The ball is in his court now, and I've made sure everyone here knows exactly who he is. But then my aunt speaks up again, her voice softer now, more apologetic. We're going to need to talk about this later, Danny. All of us. The words are final, and I know that whatever happens next, nothing will be the same. But for now, I let the weight of the silence linger. Danny finally pushes his chair back, standing up abruptly. His face is flushed, eyes wide with a mix of frustration and humiliation. He glares at me one last time, but the fire he once had is gone. It's replaced by something more painful, realization. He knows he's lost, and there's nothing he can do to fix it now. Without saying another word, he storms out of the room, slamming the door behind him. The house seems to exhale a collective breath, as if the tension in the air has been lifted. My aunt and uncle sit there, stunned into silence, processing everything that just unfolded. Alex, my uncle begins, his voice still thick with disbelief. I had no idea. I should have been paying more attention. You didn't deserve any of this. I nod, my chest tightening just a little. I don't expect anyone to know everything, Uncle Mark. But it wasn't just about the money. It was the way he's been treating me, manipulating everyone around him, thinking he could get away with it just because we're family. It had to stop. My aunt sighs, her hands trembling as she wipes her eyes. I'm so sorry, Alex. I didn't see it before. I'll make sure we talk about this, really talk about it, when Danny calms down. This family can't keep going on like this. I nod again, my gaze lingering on the door where Danny had exited. In that moment, I realize this won't be the last time this conversation comes up. But for the first time in a long while, I feel a sense of relief. It was a brutal confrontation, but it was necessary. The dinner was over after that. No one really had much to say, and I could tell my aunt and uncle needed some time to process what had just happened. I left shortly after, saying my goodbyes and heading home, with a mix of emotions swirling inside me. I was angry at Danny for everything he'd done, but I also felt a strange sense of closure. In the days that followed, I didn't hear from Danny. I knew it was probably best that way. He needed time to process the fallout from his own actions. But what really hit me was how the rest of the family started to treat me. It wasn't just my aunt and uncle who were grateful for what I did, it was my cousins, my other relatives. They reached out with messages of support, thanking me for standing up to him. It felt good to know I wasn't alone in this, that I had the support of the family who'd seen what Danny had been doing behind the scenes. As for Danny, he eventually reached out, but it wasn't to apologize. He wanted something. Of course, it wasn't money. Instead, he wanted to manipulate the situation again, trying to convince me I was the one who had gone too far. He said the family would never be the same after what I did. But honestly, I didn't care. I didn't need to fix everything for him. What I did wasn't about him. It was about finally standing up for myself and showing that I wouldn't let him walk all over me anymore. Things aren't perfect. I haven't heard from him much since that last attempt, and I'm fine with that. It's not easy dealing with someone like Danny, but I've made it clear that I won't be a doormat. I'm just relieved that, for the first time in a long while, there's a sense of peace in my family. And that's the way it stands now. My question to all of you, what would you have done in my situation? Did I go too far? Or was this something that needed to happen? Let me know your thoughts, because honestly, I'm still processing everything too.